What happened while we were away, brought to you by Systemic Cowardice. In Uvalde, Texas, the more details that come out regarding the police response to last week's mass school shooting at Robb Elementary, the worse the story gets. It's now confirmed that the shooter arrived at the school and entered through an unlocked back door shortly after crashing his pickup. Police didn't even gather inside the school until at least 20 minutes later. The on-site commander decided the unfolding situation inside the building was one of a barricaded suspect and not an active shooter, and thus it wasn't until nearly an hour and 20 minutes after the shooter entered the school that he was shot and killed. That is now the definitive timeline as outlined at a press conference on Friday. All the while, children were inside, trapped, being shot by the gunman. Further, it was also revealed that the Border Patrol officer responsible for killing the gunman became frustrated with local police and acted by himself. We are also learning more about the gunman, who, as we knew, was a loner. It's also been revealed he made online threats to rape, kidnap, and kill teen girls. Those threats were ignored. Pictures also surfaced of the shooter in the past going around town with a bag of dead cats. That behavior was also ignored. At an NRA event in Texas, Donald Trump spoke about the tragedy in Uvalde.
The monster who committed this crime is pure evil, pure cruelty, pure hatred, absolute pure hatred. And while those he slaughtered are now with God in heaven, he will be eternally damned to burn in the fires of hell. The fact is, there will always be sick and demonic souls who wish to harm the innocent and see malice triumph over good. Gonna have that. But the existence of evil in our world is not a reason to disarm law-abiding citizens who know how to use their weapon and can protect a lot of people. The existence of evil is one of the very best reasons to arm law-abiding citizens.
In Canada, Boy King Justin Trudeau made this announcement.
We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
Get a load of that dystopia. For those of you listening, those surrounding Prime Minister Castro are all uniformly masked up and nodding in agreement as he spews his bile. Back in the States, the Department of Justice announced Sunday they're reviewing the police response to the school shooting. Speaking of the Justice Department, two former FBI officials who were accused of disregarding sex abuse allegations against former USA Gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar will not be charged with federal crimes. The DOJ, in a statement, admits the allegations were handled inappropriately, but that federal charges would not be filed. John Manley, a lawyer for many of Nassar's alleged victims, called the decision incomprehensible and said the timing of the announcement before a holiday weekend and during coverage of a school shooting, quote, is one of the more cynical attempts by the Justice Department to cover up FBI complicity, end quote. The newest Cook political report paints a bleak outlook once again for Democrats. For example, some districts where Biden won by 10 to 15 points are now in danger of flipping Republican. The election is 23 weeks from today. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt last week signed a bill into law prohibiting all baby killing from the moment of conception. The law is similar to Texas's heartbeat law in its enforcement. Private parties may sue if they believe someone to have killed their unborn baby. Pope Francis snubbed the San Francisco Archbishop who announced House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is barred from communion. The pontiff promoted a lower-ranking bishop to the position of cardinal, bypassing Archbishop Cordileone. A new study published at The Lancet, of all places, has thoroughly debunked a study used by the CDC to justify masking kids in school. The study says there was no appreciable difference in COVID case numbers in districts that masked their kids versus ones that did not, and said the smaller studies often referenced by the CDC are prone to bias. And finally, signs you might be a man. Here's the Babylon Bee.
Are you having trouble figuring out whether you're a man or not? These days it can be so hard to tell. But don't you worry. These signs will help you determine whether you're an adult human male. First on the list, you pretend to enjoy cigars. Fact, cigars are gross. They smell bad, and they make you smell bad. But men are supposed to smell bad, so if you pretend to like cigars despite your upset stomach and splitting headache, then you're probably a man. Next up, it's uncomfortable to cross your legs. If your anatomy makes it painful to cross your legs, it's because you ought to be man-spreading, man! You stand by open car hoods pointing and gesturing. Look, everybody knows you have no idea what you're doing, but if you insist on gazing at all the doohickeys and thingamabobbers under the car hood, it's because you're a man. Oh, here's a fun one. You can effortlessly win at every women's sport. If you dominate women's sports because you're physically larger and stronger than all your opponents, it's probably because you shouldn't be playing women's sports in the first place, you big strapping man, you.
And that's what happened while we were away.